Yoma. Yeah, I mean,
Toidas Hashem Tmimim Meshivas Nafesh. Every moment is precious. Nasoras Yomim, Shemeirot Shem Yom Kippur. And what happened was that last year we said, I think it was last year, that we said,
what?
when did we start learning the last Pedic in Yoma? Wasn't it last summer?
Yeah.
So we learned it. We said we're gonna, yeah, Nish the Yok till Yom Kippur to finish the Pedic. And the problem is after Yom Kippur, it's very hard to learn it.
Yeah.
Just like same with Hanukkah. The last year we started before Hanukkah. And we started the Hilchas Purim. I'm sorry, Hanukkah. And but by the time it was Mishanich Nasada, you can't really learn anymore.
Yeah.
So this year we're making Hashloma, and not that we're going to manage to finish everything, but I hope we're going to make a significant move over here. So we had left off. We had left off to the promise the other way. We had left off Daf Daf Ayin Ches Amud Beis, the last line. The last line.
Open to the vessel. Yeah.
Ayin Tes Amud Aleph. Yeah. Ayin Tes Amud. Basically, it's Boyre Poppe. So Ayin Ches Amud Beis. And then we have Ayin Tes Amud Aleph.
Confusing, okay, because
because yeah. Sure. Otherwise, it's
special machine.
Yeah. Yoel went specially went to on the avenue over here. Okay.
I have a small paper, I guess.
No, come on, gross. Okay. The Mishnah said that the sheet of eating. Doesn't mind.
I'm going to take myself with the Yoma food.
Beautiful as the cappies are. Support.
Oh, you saw the paper.
Wow. Yeah. No, it's in this. Option pay Gimel. Okay. Okay. Boy, the puppet get pregnant kasha. You turn the page. Kesevish Amru, when the Mishnah said that the shir achila on Yom Kippur is kesevis, is begarinasa below garinasa, with the pit or without the pit. Boy, the Bashi asked when Chazal said etzim kesoida, a bone as big as a soida, as a barley, with or without the clipper. We're talking about a soda that's wet or dry. It's a different shear. Zog the Gemara, Rabashi wasn't bothered by the question of Papa when Lagabi Yom Kippur, what's the shear? The Mishnah said Kisevis Hagasa. Gasa Itmar. It says the Gasa, a fat one. Called Kama Gasa, as big as it is, obviously with the pit. The Papa never was bothered by the question of Ashi. If it was a barley which is leicha, which is wet, shaboilus mikri. That's not called a soid, it's called a shaboilus. Shaloi b'klipasa, if you take off the klipa, ushla mikri. So obviously we know that Rashi says hilkech yevesha b'klipasa hu de mikri siyoira. Okay, so one didn't have the question of the other one. When we say a kisevis, I'm planning to go very fast, but not David Shatelfim will be matzliach sabes laranga in the sugya. First of all, there's a few nukudis about this Gemara Bashwacha Pratis. I wish we had a little more time before Yom Kippur to do more, but it's just Ashgach Yona. This summer we spent the summer learning Peirik Ches in Seder B'Chasanan and Alter Rebbe. Kazayis, Revies, the Achilles Pras, the Pras, the Revies, the Revies, all the shiurim. Um, so that's what we did this summer. So it Mamash Ashgocha Pratis, and this is Pasha where we're holding, and this is
This
we're
is
holding.
shiurim.
So this is also the next four daf. The next two daf is about the shiurim, and then afterwards another three daf is about uh, basically choila, which is very very important halachas.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know for how much we'll manage to do tonight and tomorrow night. And I'd like to do mitzvah tomorrow night. I'd like to do the Shulchan Aruch Simatov Reish Yud Beis, and maybe a little bit of Tov Reish Yud Ches, which is choila v'yom kippur, which is very important sugya. And then this Gemara we'll learn tonight will set the stage on the Shulchan Aruch that I want to learn next week, Hilchas Sukkah. And the mitzvah will set the stage of a few Geshmak Shtiklach, Shakla Siches, Yunim from the Rebbe, on certain Inyonim, Sheyabana Hilchas Lamashuk, Sheyabana Beis Hamikdash, it also has a shaykhs to what we're learning in Geras HaTshuva. So, mitzvah will learn the Gemara, everything starts a Gemara. After learn a Gemara Rashi.
Yes, that's true. That's a shiurim.
It's also sure because we're learning on tinus, how much this amount of fast, this amount of fast, how much stocking is chai gedoyle polnish, yud beis gedoyle chai pshitim, yud beis shita chai gedoyle polnish. It's all shiurim. Yochel lechel ad gimel shos lefnei netzachama. This is all shiurim. Okay, so
Here. You have more over here.
might zog the Gemara.
Yeah.
The
camera.
Zog the Gemara. Amarav Amri Guda Kiseves Agatza Shamru. When we spoke about a kiseves, a date, a big fat date. As you say to you should know Rabbi Yehuda holds that a big fat date. It's Ayin Tes over here.
Yeah.
That that this big fat date is Yisayim Mekabeitz, a bigger Nebeitz. The Kimmel Rabbanon, Ba'achim Meis V'daita. Chachamim understood that this calms the person's mind, fasting, but some Achilai Mas V'daita. Less than this doesn't calm the person's mind. Meis V'daita. Yechabakasha. Look, the Braisa Maisa reveal that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai litem es atavshin. Oh, the Rabbi Gamliel, what did they bring him? Shnei koseves v'dli shalmayim. They brought to Rabbi Gamliel 2 dates and a bucket of water. V'amru helam l'sukkah. And they wanted to go up in the sukkah to eat it in the sukkah. The Tani Allah and the Braisa said, Lo mipnei shehalocha kach, ala sherotz lahachmir al atzman, the Malabavitch chassidim.
You don't eat nothing outside.
So even at Li Shalmayim, Mishtei Koseves, we wanted to have in the sukkah. Okay. Shenosa Reb Tzadok Bachil's Mikabeitza. Not lebemapa, ve'ochle chutz l'sukkah v'loy beirich acher. He didn't want to be machmer Reb Tzadok. Tzadok did the din. Rashi says shloisha kulam nogaboy acher shloi not l'yodav elo bemapa. He didn't wash until his yadayim. Why did he take a map? Because he was a very clean person, so he wouldn't eat unless he had a fork and a knife or a spoon or a shmata that he held a piece of bread. That was just his thing.
Well, why they give him dli or not a kosher man? Dli, it's a base.
He was thirsty, maybe. He ate it outside the sukkah. The 3 coolers. He didn't wash. Remember when we learned at this time that so is less than a kabeitza. So you have to have a kabeitza, and this is Reb Tzadok is.
And he has pachot kabeitza.
Because those pachas, that's why. Well, so we see that you need to when you wash, you have to plan to eat a kabeitza. I ate it chutz l'sukkah, and he didn't make a brach afterwards. Okay. Zog Gemara, a kabeitza is mashma by sukkah. If it was a kabeitza, he would go to the sukkah. Sagt die Gemara Yitzhak, Adaitach Kiseves Agas Shamru. Yeah, Kebetz, you said him Kebetz, if you're going to tell me that a big fat date is bigger than a Kebetz, Hashta Sheiko is visible, I don't have a Kebetz, you're telling me that 2 koisvus that he ate was not a kibetza. So kisevis agasa vegarinosa miave you say to me kibetza. You're telling me he was machmir. He could have eaten it. He was machmir. Bemes, he didn't have to eat in the sukkah. So obviously because it was less than a kibetza. So he ate 2 dates that were less than a kibetza. But yet you're telling me that a fat date, okay, maybe he ate 2 skinny dates, but still a fat, 2 skinny dates are less than a kibetza. And a fat date is bigger than a kibetza. Amr b'yirmiyah in shtei koisves v'lo garin nasan lo have a kibetza. Yeah, what's the kasha? 2 little skinny dates without the gun is less than a kibetza. Okay, seven sagasa v'garin nasan kibetza.
That's what.
Because sagasa plus a garin nasan. Amr papa had This is what people say. Today kabi the tamri. If you have 2 kab is a shear. You have 2 kabim of onim. Kad kabe the kashaisa. The soriach that if you have 2 kabim of dates, don't think you're going to eat 2 kabim of dates. If you have 2 pounds of dates, you have 1 pound plus. Soriach means plus. We have 1 pound plus of stuff that goes in the garbage. So you're going to end up eating what less than 1 pound? It's true. Okay. Rava said, I don't understand what was the kasha b'chlal. Rava Omar, what was your question? Why you're telling me that the tzaddik ate outside the sukkah because it was less than a kibetz, and Rebbe Gamliel also could have eaten outside the sukkah. It was machmir. He was decided to be a lebavit shechos. So you're asking Akasha.
It's not bread.
The answer is poshut. You're asking Akasha, what's what I mean? A date. You tell me a date is bigger than a beit. What's the kasha? He didn't eat bread. The tzaddik ate bread. If tzaddik ate bread, he ate fruits. Bread you have to eat in the sukkah. Taka bread it depends. A beitza, not a beitza. But Rabbi Gamliel was eating fruits, and fruits you can eat outside the sukkah. What's the kasha b'chlal?
It's really a fruit, it's not a food.
Huh?
It's a fruit, it's not a food.
Okay. Zag the Gemara, Rav Oma, eine time we should have a pri. Pri loy by sukkah. Macy, who told you? Amar the Braisa said, Amar Bikshin, 11 in Torah, it's like Balazim and Shemoy, Vila Fanenu, Tainim Vanovim, Bakalna Machilas Ari Chotz Lasuk, Echilas Ari. Oh, and what? It was only Echilas Ari in Echilas Kavalois, Mashma, the Echilas Kav they wouldn't eat. So it's Mashma, the fruits you're not allowed to eat outside the sukkah. So the Gemara, Lo, Yoma, Achalnum Ki Achilas Ari Chotz Lasuk. Either teretz comes to the same thing. The bottom line is, no, they didn't mean it's a loshin kti in the brayse. It means that you emes fruits you're allowed to eat outside the sukkah. Fruits you're allowed to eat outside the sukkah. From our Mishnah. The Mishnah says that sukkah. That there's a machloikes between Rebbe Elazar and Chachamim, how many sudas a person must have on sukkahs. Rebbe Elazar says 14. Chachamim said no, only the first night. You're mechuyev, there's a gezerah shava, first night of Pesach, first night of sukkahs. Amidst Hashem, as I said, we're setting the stage. Next week, we'll hope that before sukkahs we'll learn some Matov Reish Lamatas, because last year we did the beginning of the Simah. Now we'll continue in the
chiyuv is in the first night of Sukkot
because after that, right? After you don't. But the Belezer holds it's 14, and the Mishnah says that according to the Belezer, if he missed the Suda, he could be mashlam later. And the Mishnah says lefikachim hishlim b'minei targima yotza that he could do it b'minei targima. In Hilchas Sukkah, these few lines in the Gemara is very, very, very important. It comes down the halacha. Fikach nishlam in targima, and it's also in the Gela. He ate a meal. He benches. What happened was like this: the last day, Ashwini Atzeres, he realizes, hey, I only ate 13 meals. Lamazog.
Okay.
So he benches, and then he eats mini targima, and that's a shloma. That's going to be mashlim. Say one of the 14 meals he's missing. He realized he only has 13 meals. He eats bread, he benches, and then he eats mini targima.
What's mini targim?
What's mini targima? Oh, this is your. That's a very good question. Mishla mini targima yotz. Rashi says lifta, things that you eat to accompany the bread. So Isal,
Dips, like a dips?
yeah, maybe Visal kedaitach dips, yeah, Vita kedaitach pedi boy sukkah. Now, if you're going to hold the pedis must be in the sukkah, at least in pedis. Let him be mashlam through pedis. My mini targima. Why are you telling me mini targima? So, at least I'm sorry. Visal kedaitach pedi boy sukkah. If you're going to tell me that a pedis is mechuyev to eat in the sukkah, so at least in pedis, let him, because the Gemara nimmt on, and we'll hear it's a starke svara, that you can only be mashlim a suda of Yom Tov in something which you're mechuyev to eat in the sukkah. Water that you can have outside the sukkah, that's not going to be a shlama for suda's chak. The sukkah of it has to be something which you're mechuyev to eat in the sukkah. So v'isal daitach pedi by sukkah, listen to pedi. So Gemara, nah, my minute tagima pedis. The word tagima means also pedis. Iboy same asa de lashkichi peda. So therefore they said tagima for the same price, pedis, tagima, tazavazah. So both Iboy same is the same thing. Saying that really tagima pedis, it's the same thing. You could be yoitza, therefore it's nishken raya to the halacha of Rav. But the Rav is still holding his din. The Rava holds that that you could have pedis chutz l'sukkah. So the shaila is, how is the Rava going to learn the maskana? A Rava that says you're allowed to have pedis chutz l'sukkah, and the Gemara says that you could be mashlim, asuda with minit targima, and that could be pedis. How could you be mashlim? How could you be mashlim with pedis if pedis you could eat chutz l'sukkah? So there's two ways of learning it. One way is to say, maybe in the maskana of the Gemara b'shlosim, you know what? The Makshan was wrong. The Makshan was thinking that in order to be mashla masuda, you have to be eating something which you mechuyev to eat in the sukkah. Well, let's go. You can have water, you can have pedis, you can have anything. That one way of learning it.
Maybe that everything from here that on Shabbos if you don't know what.
There's a lot of things that come from here. We'll sort of Taka and Toisus in a second, exactly. Here we learn 1 second. And the other way of learning it is, no, that the Taka, that Rava Taka, that Rava's Taka going to hold. Rava is going to say, the Gemara says, is that Araya to Rava. So there's this, it's not Raya. But Lapoil, if you ask a Rava, he's going to say, Yishla Minim Bet Targima, means Targima yeah and Pedis nicht. Keraya can nicht bring it to Rav because you could learn otherwise. But that's Lapoil that Rav is going to learn that way. Because that's the two ways of learning. Lani Udaiti, there's two ways of learning. And if we go quickly, because this is going to be negate next week, what we're learning, let's learn the Toises negate to Shalosh Shudas. Mina Targima is a Toises. The Perek Ayoshin Gabim Hishlam Yudalad Sudas Shachai Vadam Lech Basuktas Mina Targima Yotza. Yiddish Rashi. This is Rebbe Lezer Shita. We don't pass in this way. Rebbe Lezer says you mechuyev on Sukkot to have Yudalat Sudas. And we pass like Chacham, you only mechuyev to have the first night. Zereshava Pesach to Sukkot.
The only thing that they will bring is you have to drink a Revis Yain. Revis Yain,
Emes. That the Alter Rebbe brings. But this
people don't realize it.
Right.
They don't.
Right. That the Alter Rebbe brings. But this we don't pass in this way. But the Poil, it's Rebbe Lezer Zatana. So we have to understand what we're arguing on the issue of Yudalat Sudas, and we're arguing you don't have to be mashla. But if we would have held like Rebbe Lezer, so it has to, what Rebbe Lezer says has to make sense.
Right.
So you're saying he says you could do mina targim, and the Gemara says, you could do it with pedis. What's going on? So that's the issue here. So Peter Shirashi, what's targima? We went pedis kisnim v'kaflutas, fruits or cake, paskisnin, or the kaflutas, cabbage.
What Rashi is it quoted?
This is a Rashi in Sukkot Chazayin.
Not just pears mevusholim.
Yeah.
The pears could be mevushol.
No, pedis kisnin or kaflutas mevusholim. Vegetables that are cooked, they're kosher. No, pedis is always kosher. Kaflutas mevusholim is because they're cabbage and the squashes that are cooked has.
A person could sit down and eat pears for soda.
there's a certain shivas to it. That's what Rashi says. That's Targima. V'hocha mashma, but Tosfos says that to me, Tosfos says hocha mashma the minute Targima love Peidus nin.
He's
Choylek. Why? Tosfos is learning. Wait a minute. Yeah, it's very nice. The Gemara says you could say Targima means also Peidus. Could say it, but Rav is not going to say it. So how did Rashi have say such a ridiculous shot? Yeah, the Gemara says you could say it, but Rav is not going to say it. So v'hochamash minit tagim alav peidenin. Vein lilmet mekan sheyoyel minit tagim alahashlim shalosh shudah shel Shabbos minit hachim hishlim minit tagim yotz. The shiny awesome the alfin along with the ksiv tlosses in hayom gabe man shv'makom pas. By so therefore don't think you
use the word
oh so by the shalosh shel Shabbos it has to be mamish pas. Viele have Amrin and the Nofik begimel sudas b'minit targima. Places all of a sudden is having a little doubt in his mind that maybe the gimel sudas. It's funny. Once Tosfos had a doubt, it was not like Abishal Shudas. It was for all three sudas. All of a sudden, Tosfos
you could do it.
Maybe should be making Kamoga besuke. Makomokim Peidi loinof. Lama hani nami besuke. I told you the Peidus doesn't even help besuke. So how is it going to help for Shabbos? So Peidus is not going to help. We don't pass like this and Gans. We make a little bit, even when Matzadach we make even for Peidus. Matzadasheni only the Gabi Shalashudas.
I think the other people that eat outside the city only water.
No, also Peidus. Also Peidus. Well, yeah, also Peidus.
If you want Muslim the 14 Seudot, if you have enough fruit to make Bracha Achona, he has to go to the Sukkah.
But this is our question now. The Gemara said. And Rava said that fruits you could have outside the sukkah.
How much fruit?
So the Gemara says, but it says you could make targima in hishlam min targima yotza. So targima, but not peitis. So the Gemara says, it means also peitis. So what's the Rava going to do with that? Tosfos says the Rava is going to say, yeah, it's the way you're learning, but I'm not going to learn that way. I'm going to say that you can't have paid that you can't be mashlim with peitis because peitis can't chesed chutz l'sukkah. But if you look at the Tosfos Yeshonim, beautiful big copy. Usually, based Yeshonim, you have to break your eyes. So my mine, look in the Tosfos Yeshonim, and my mine targima. Okay, you have the Dibra Mas, yeah? One before that. Tergime nami peidenine. Avala ikir, she'en koide mine tergime ela maise kedeire. V'yesh b'chamesh asamine kemine mitesefte. Heviu lefana mine tergime v'lefana v'berich mine mezonis. Hanel v'yesh b'chamesh mine dogen. Kemim ketzim avorchim. V'lo kepirish rishbam shekpirish b'arve p'sachim mine peidus. U'bosar balolech and dalav. It says Targima means things that are cake, cookies, are mezonos. Okay.
What is Targima? Is the lafis is a pass?
Targima, he said,
So
means
cakes
cookies.
and cookies is not lafis is a pass.
Who said laf is a pass? I didn't see a word laf is a pass.
I thought
I don't know. I didn't see that. We just read the Hashem. It didn't say laf is a pass. My minute Targima. Nami peidi. Vafagav. The peidi loy boyisuke. Mikomokem. My minute targim nami peidi. I forgot the peidi loy bo sukkah. Even though a peidus doesn't need to have a sukkah. Makom yochel hashlim yudalat suda shel sukkah b'minute targima. I smiled so much when I see this the Tosfos Yeshonim. So now the Tosfos Yeshonim really is fanfing out.
There's a different gear system. Bracha, Leibin and Bracha.
I forgot the peidi loy bo sukkah.
Leibin and Bracha.
Oh wow. Makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
I'm glad I learned it with my Gemara. Now, this way I think of him. So he's saying, now I understand what Rashi's learning. He said that the maskon of the Gemara is, it's not unusual. That the Gemara, he says, the Gemara said, you, the Makshin, thought that you can only be mashlim the 14 sudas by something you're mechuyev to eat in the sukkah. The Gemara is saying, no, who said? Fruits taki eat out of the sukkah, but still, l'gabi hashlama, you could be mashlim. And that does for emfit That's Taka why Rashi says that the person could be mashlim the 14 sudas of Yom Tov through eating minitagima, basar, vedogim, vekaflutois, vepeiros. That's what the Leute touch Shom is verstandig. What's the Rashi's pshat? Kann ich wieder beschlemmen mit Rabbi Yaakov Raya, bim Hishlam Suda Shlishis shel Shabbos. See, he says only Suda Shlishis. The minitagima, yotza. Hainu, nami peri. Even bepeiros you're yotza. Just like Rebbe Elazar said, if you want to be mashlim, a suda from the 14 sudas that you missed on Shmini Atzeres, you could be mashlim through eating a mini targima, which targima means the Gemara is a fruit. So why Toysus learned fadreit in a way? Yeah, that's the Gemara says, but Rav is going to disagree. Rav is going to say, no, that you can be mashlim b'mina targima fruit, but the Gemara targima and fruit mean the same thing. So therefore, the Rashi learns Taka like the Tos Yishonim, that Tagima and fruits are the same thing. And the Gemara slugs up that axiom. You think they could only be mashlim a suda only with something you must eat in the sukkah? No, even something you can eat outside the sukkah, so shtikalachid. But the same thing, Lagabe Suda Shlishis, the Rishonim thought it's the same thing. The Lagabe Suda Shlishis, you can eat an apple and do Suda Shlishis with an apple. Miu Nira Lefarish. Legabe Avsoka Shalaru Shabbos Verev Yom Tov L'Sagi B'Mini Targime Kim L'Tzorech L'Kadosh Alayam Nisos. Leave that alone for a second. I think there's a sikha, something about the Rebbe Rashab. That the Rebbe Rashab in the shorter Shabbosim in the winter, because the davening was too long, so there wasn't enough time to eat Suda Shabbos. Listen. This is no, there wasn't enough time to eat Suda Shabbos. Then they'll miss mincha. So they finish Musaf, they make Kiddush, eat a chazayis of cake. Then they would have mincha. Then they would wash. And he would say that the second Suda is really Suda Shlishis. And the third is Suda Shenis. Then there's a whole pilpul about this. How could you do such a thing? How could you say? He said, I'm doing mini targima for the third suda, Mekendach Mekel Zayin.
But he washed
the third. So he did the second suda right after Musaf. He'd make Kiddush, eat didn't wash, eat a kazayas of cake. He'd make alamichya, right away daven mincha, and right away wash before shkia. And then he would eat after Shkia, Chengavash, and he could eat Suda Shabbos.
To me, that's what the Rebbe did.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Because nobody knows what he did when he walked home.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that ever washed on Shabbos. I think he ate cake.
No, that's what if I bring it. I remember the short Shabbosim. I was with him.
So that's what I'm saying.
And he went till Mincha.
Right.
So he went home. What did he do when he went home?
He said, nah, he said a
Maybe
good
takes
book.
out
He
this.
said,
Sachem Gemeita Kavashin.
I don't think so.
Why not?
Because a lot of times they went straight from Mincha to Maidav.
No, not Shabbos.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes they went straight.
We always walked him home.
And when you walked them home, okay, in the later years, yeah, there was also. So Shmami know that the Rebbe had gehalten that you could be yoitz all three sudas like the earlier Toises Yishonim. I want to go weiter in the Gemara because I want to get back to it. As I said, I want to set the stage. Well, Mitzvah Shem, there'll be Sukkot 3 days, Yom Tov, to Mincha Maidim, it's on a Sach Zeit to Reden Chiduchim. Huh?
It takes too long to wash.
The Rebbe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was just too long. Because it's avoid the Sakoid, they didn't allow for the time. That's it. I doubt it that the Rebbe had against washing.
No,
It just didn't work out. It just didn't. Like Friday night, I'm sure the Rebbe washed. The Rebbe didn't wash because there's a law from the Maril that said that the Rebbe Seif Yoma decided that you could be Yotzei Suda Shabbos but Pas Kisnin. So I think that the Rebbe was not mefakfik. Some people maybe say, it's all good, the Maril, whatever, but the Rebbe was not mefakfik. The Rebbe was not showing. So
What's the literal touch of lifton? Rashi says lifton.
Lifton means, like he said before, dips. Hummus, could also be.
That's why I get liafas as a pass.
Liafas as a pass, yeah. But we're not talking now about it.
Rashi.
Yeah. Okay, weiter in the Gemara. Weiter. This is on hold for next week. We'll do a little bit Hilchas Sukkah, and then the following week a little bit Hilchas Shlish. Okay, weiter. Sag the Gemara. Anyway, But Hakol Makoyma Yovel Shalom, Rashi has his way of understanding Maskon and the Gemara. That according to Rashi, the Maskon of the Gemara is that the chidush is that you don't that to be mashlam that you dalat sudas or for sudas shlishis.
Yes.
You could also have paydas. I the Gemara is up. What do you mean? Paydas you eat outside the sukkah. And Toysa says no. One of the Gemara is that Rava holds that the Gemara is wrong, and you could minute agima you can be mashlam dainu with mezoinus, but not with paydas. Okay, so the Gemara weiter.
Maybe the lotion of that in Shabbos over there should taste either pears or mezen.
I want to go with Mitzvah Shem. I want to look next week in Sahel Shabbos Shudas, Sahel Chasuka.
Wait.
He does say paydas, right? I'll tell his Michael paydas. Okay, weiter. Sag die Gemara, Zvid macht sich nicht wissen, ihr besitzt eine Hand, your whole discussion is wrong. Kisevas Agas Shamaru, Kaseidim Kabetza. Kisevas Agas is less than a Kabetza. Nan, gelernt in the Mishnah, Veshama, Yomrim, so because I is Chometz, but Kisevas. Torah said, Lo Yirah Lecho Chometz, Lo Yirah Lecho Sor, B'chug V'lech. Why did the Torah have to tell you two separate things, Sor and Chometz? B'zol B'zach. I've been about my time, the Beshama nicht, Rechmon Chometz, V'loi Boi Sor. No, Mina Mach Chometz, She'en Chimutzi Kosher, Kol Kach. Also, because I is Chimutzi Kosher, Loi, Kol Shekem, Midefal, Ginu, Rachmona. The Torah told you two separate things. Limdalach, Shure Shel Zeh, Loi Shure Shel Zeh, Kishure Shel Zeh, that the two separate Shurim.
What's the difference of Sarah and Chametz?
The Soid is,
What's it there?
So
is Machmat Zachem.
right, Machmet Zacherim.
Oh, I see.
He's the sourdough.
Wow.
So it's like now the yeast. So Madoch, the yeast is Sachametz is for sure the yeast. So that to tell you that the two separate shiurim, one is a smaller, one is a bigger. So which is the source of chametz is a smaller shiur because ice of chametz is big kiseves. We sell that kiseves agas. Shiamru. If you're going to tell me that kiseves is say the kabetza is bigger than a kabetza, merdi. Ishami the shura the nafesh mekazai is kamahad. Ishami is telling you a rational thing that the Torah obviously told you one shear and another shear. One has to be a smaller, one is bigger. He's looking for the next one up. The Rebbe Shem didn't tell us the bigger shear and the smaller shear. You can't have less than a kazais, and I'm looking for the next step up. So if it's true, Abazoi is listening kabetz. If the next one up is a if kiseves is bigger than a kabetza, so why didn't he say kabetza? Kazai is kabetza. He's looking for the two smaller shiurim, the bigger and the smaller. And even if they're going to tell me that kiseves kabetza is the same, still tell me kabetza is Rashi because we're always used to hearing the word kabetza. The shear of kabetza, love shomena, kiseves, chusa, mikabetza. Elamai have from here's an ayah that a kiseves is less than kabetza. He was looking for two shiurim, one for chametz and one for soy, a smaller and a bigger. So the one he found, the smallest shear, obviously is a kazais. The next one up is a kiseves. So Gemara Mamai, Dilmaloi, Mamelach kiseves agas shamer, you say to mikabetza. Bemes, a kiseves agas is bigger than a kabetza. Pastama, a regular kiseves is kabetza. And they're really the same thing. He was only Beshami only said one, even though it's a doichet. The Gemara is only trying to say that this is nishken raya. I'll tell you a raya from here. Said that kamam is amne. How much you have to eat in order to make a zimun? In order to make a zimun, you have to be chayiv with achila. So it's funny because the Shas brings this a few times. Ad kazayis. Divrei Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda at kabetza. You have to eat a kabetza. But my kamifch, what's the machlokes in Meir? So it says v'chalta z'achila v'savata z'ushtiya. V'achila, what does it mean? Achila b'kazayis. Rabbi Yehuda saver v'chalta v'savata achila sheyesh b'sevia v'ezu ze kabetza. This is a kabetza. He saldaiter kiseves agasa. You say to me kabetza if you're going to tell me that a kiseves is bigger than a kabetza. Hashta doesn't make sense. Kabetza is suvi misav. The kabetza is making me full. Daita loy miyasva. we said that Chazal said v'nisim es nafshoy seichem, and they said what's mean inui? It's not. The Torah didn't say don't eat. The Torah said you have to be ma'ana yourself. And as we're going to say later in the Gemara, the Chazal Mashar, it's Kesevis. So if you're telling me that the kibetza makes a person full, he's making full, but it's not miyas v'daita yet. And a Kesevis is bigger than that. That's when it'll be miyas v'daita. That's Chinese. It doesn't make sense. I love Shema Mino. Kesevis agas l'shamru pachos mekabetza. Muzman Zayna Kesevis is less than a kibetza. Kibetza mizbeh. Kesevis miyasvedait. Now it makes sense. You're saying Chazal said that there's a certain amount you eat that's going to calm your mind. That's a kesevis. But if you eat much more, which is a kibetza, then you're going to get full. Then you're going to be sava. Oh, now it makes sense.
But your mind not going to be good.
No, that's what I'm saying. If you say that it makes, if you can say a date is half the size of Lamazon Kabetza, if you eat a date, the sheet of a date, then it calms your mind a little bit.
But you're
still hungry.
You're not severe.
You're not severe. Eat a Kabetza, you're severe. It's a different talk. The Gemara is Ma'alocha.
You really can be severe from kibetza?
That's what Yehuda holds. It probably.
It's miyashir dat.
It's a certain level of severe. It's a certain level of severe. Tanya Rebbe Yoma, kol hashurim chulim b'kazayis. Rebbe said that the shiurim, whenever we say a shir in food, it's all a kazayis. Chutz metumas oichel, besides tumas oichel. Shina kosav b'mashma, shina chan b'shiure. Because the Torah used a different lashon by tumas oichel, and therefore the shir has to be a different. But I will davi yom kippur. Yeah, but that's l'gabe l'iyah. That's l'gabe l'iyah. Yeah, l'gabe chil also, because over there there's a special limud. It is l'davi yom kippur. My shina kosav mashma. What was by yom kippur that the Torah said a different word? Because the Torah said loy tu'una. The Torah didn't say loy toicha. The kol nefesh loy tu'una didn't say kol nefesh loy toicha v'nichnas nefesh imamer. Loy tu'una. My shina chachamim b'shiure. Where the Chachamim say a different shir, they said kesevis. They said usually the shir is kazais, and here they bumped it up to kesevis because it has to be not only that you ate, but you ate enough that was meyas v'daita. Instead of being ma'ani yourself, you calmed yourself. My ra'il dav yom kippur. Why do I need to bring from Tumah to Yom Kippur one to the other? Dima ahosam. If I only said the story of Tumah Hava, I mean an urchadikrohu, that this was the lashon of the pasuk. Therefore, the Rashi says what Rashi explains. Ime hasam. The shina kosa betuma Hava mina ancient shina hakosa. The urchahu lemichtav makol ochel asher yeochel. Ki heiche diksiv gabe mashke mikol mashke asher yesasa. Mashke malon Yom Kippur. Doesn't vada shina kosa b'mashmoah, b'shina chachama b'shiure. Emer me'ate, shina b'tuma nami, shimtaina the shina kosa hu, asher yoichel, shina mashmoah choshev lei. Because it's a telltale sign, because of Gabi Yom Kippur, the Torah said a different losh. Chachamim understood that it's a different shiur, it's also by Tumah. It said, Mikol oichel asher yochel, it's a funny lashon. So I would have thought, Mikol mashka asher yeshasa. So no. Once I see already by Yom Kippur, that the Torah said a little bit of a different lashon. Chachamim understood that it means to tell me a different shir. So also, the Torah said a different lashon to tell you a different shir. The Gemara now goes into what's the lashon. What's the pshat? Kol oichel asher yochel. Oichel abamachas oichel. What's oichel abamachas oichel? Which food comes from food? Beitz is tarnagoylos. Tarnagoylos is food, and the beitz is food. So Gemara, maybe it's a gedi, comes from a mother. It's a Gemara. No, you can't eat it. Because if the baby was in the mother's womb and it was shechted, then the shchitas imoyis materis eat the baby bachil. No, but still tom kriya, you have to rip it to take out the blood. So Gemara, okay, how about the different thing? Maybe there's like Rashi says, it was a big bird that once laid an egg and 60 cities were drowned from that egg.
Wow.
So maybe it's basis by Yoichni. It's like the Gemara, tafasta meruba loy tafasta. Tafasta mu tafasta. Yeah.
It's a famous.
That's what they say. The Gemara likes that losh.
Up a little bit.
Tafasta meruba loy tafasta. Tafasta mu tafasta. Ve'ema, so Gemara, if you want to be toifus mu'et, ema be'ed the tziporta, the zuta tuva, maybe a beitza is not the shear of a beitza of a tarnagorlus, but rather the beitza of a bird, which is very small. So I can have a boat today. No, I have a different way to explain. Kol oichel she'oichel. Oichel shata oichel bevas achas. There has to be an oichel that you can eat bevas achas. V'shir chachomim ein beis abli machzik yoytz make a beitza. And beitza is a tarnagorlus. Beis abli can never hold more than a beitza's tarnagorlus. All this is negay. We once last year or 2 years ago we was talking about Gabi swallowing the matzah. Omar Rebbe Lozer,
Which is impossible also.
exactly. Omar Rebbe Lozer.
Brisker.
Yeah, once exactly the brisk kazeitzim.
If you find it, maybe.
Right, that's what we said. If you grind it, but the brisk,
Impossible.
yeah. Okay, but a kabeitz attack. That's what we could bless. I believe is matzah. Omar Rebbe Lozer. Hoichel chaylev bisman hazeh. Person that ate chaylev today. Sorech sheyichtav loy shiur. He has to write exact shiur how much chaylev he ate. Shema yove bezden acher v'yarbe shiurim. Maybe another bezden is going to come and will change the shiurim.
Ashkenazim doesn't eat chalev.
Right. No, but he means real chaylev. Real chaylev. Ma yarbe b'shiurim. He named it a kamachayev korban kazayis cotton. Chazal said kazayis is aguri, which is a beinani. If you're going to say that the new bezin is going to come along and they're going to say that when the Eivish said kazayis, he meant a kazayis cotton. Tanya,
With your more machmir.
they're going to be more machmir. Give me more machmir. The bezin can't change what the Torah said. Chas v'sholom. The bezin is not Rashi Lachadish. Elamai, but the Eivish said to Moshe Rabbeinu, Alach l'Moshe Shurim. We're going to say it's Alach l'Moshe Sinai. The Eivish said to Moshe the Shurim bekazayis, and the bezin said that it means a kazayis beinani. What happens when Mashiach will come? Maybe the bezin will say it means a kazayis cotton, and now you wait.
I'm not change it from the European.
Exactly.
Less or more?
It's less. No, we spoke about the last year.
Yeah.
He said that
Calculated.
Skat no abates him. He said no, loyna skat no abates him. That it's not true. The skat no abates him. So that So no, the Chaznish argue with Rebbe Ram Chaim. No, so maybe the Bezin lost it love. Will argue and everyone put together. They'll say no, Kazais is not Kazais Ben. It's Kazais caught. And now this guy thinks he's part of bringing kormachatas, but lo and behold, he's typed to bring a kormachatas because he ate. He thinks he's potter because he ate less than a kazayis benani, but he ate more than a kazayis cotton. So he has to write down the exact sheet in his notebook. Tanya is a gemara. Maybe korban al shigigasa. Loishav midiyasa ain't maybe korban al shigigasa. It says that it has to be that had he known, he wouldn't have done the saveda. The Lomek Chaim said it has to be that if I knew, I wouldn't have done the saveda. But this guy wouldn't. If I knew, I wouldn't have done the aveda. Even if he knew it's chaylev, so I'm not going to get shlishi and shishi and maftir. They're not going to put me in mizrach for eating chatz shir of chaylev. But still, so you're telling me that you can only bring a korban chatas if had I known he didn't know it's chaylev and he ate it, so he brings a korban chatas. But what happens, had he known, he would have eaten it anyway. Then he can't bring a korban chatas. It has to be shovim. It has to be that had he known, the problem was with shagi. He didn't know it's chaylev. He thought it was shuman. But if he knew it's chaylev, he wouldn't have eaten it. But in this case, bismanaza, even if he knew it's chaylev, because it's less than the shear, he would have eaten it. Taki knows you don't get shlishi and shishi for eating chatz shear. Still, it was on our part. So anyway, you can't bring a korban for that. Elo the lo mechayev korban adike zayis godel. Maybe the bezin is going to say you're not chayev a korban until you bring a kazayis godel. Zog the Gemara. So then Fakir, he has to write down because he thinks he has to bring a korban chatos because he ate a kazayis chaylev, which is Beinani, and he's going to bring chulin lazara when Mashiach is going to come. Because the Bezin later is going to come along and say, hey, the whole for the past 2,000 years is wrong. It's not kazayis is not kazayis Beinani, kazayis godel. The Eibush that gives a kazayis, he meant kazayis godel. Olamai the saladaitach mi korban machayv korban kazayis kotten my yarbe vishurim share my yarbe bekev bonus mach mashurim. So that doesn't matter. Amar b'yochan shurim be'enshin aloch l'mash mesina enshin mich taksivi aloch kamar b'yochan shurim shel enshin aloch l'mash mesina tanya na mehoch shurim shel enshin aloch l'mash mesina cheder moment in beis din shel yavet stiknum taksiv ela mitzvah shein anosh do novi rash el chav shtova. So the Gemara el shokchem v'chozav v'yozda. It was not a new thing. So the Rebbe had a moide de kavod about. We learned this more in the beginning of Shabbos that Rabbi Shmuel said that the Chum said the Gzeila, that if you can't be reading Loidaneh Shemayata, he said Ani Ekrev Loyata, and then made a mistake, and then he wrote
because he
That's the fun.
so because he so then he wrote in a booklet don't mean over. Wrote in this booklet, Shemona Beis Shavi Chat Shmeina. So the Rebbe has two biurim on this. That was contradicting. Different biurim. The one biur, the first biur goes much better in the story of Rabbi Shmuel. The second biur goes good for the story of Rabbi Lezer. The Rebbe asks a poshta kasha. B'choyre lo yishtam et chad ma'poiskim, nish der Rambam, nish Shulchan Aruch, not any edition to mention that you should keep in your drawer, on the side of your diary, you should keep a little booklet, and that right. You know, the Rambam doesn't mention it. Shulchan Aruch doesn't mention it.
Stories.
Huh?
That story.
There's stories back there.
we don't come to Yom Kippur with a booklet.
But how you talking? We the Rambam. It's like a gemara. This is a medrash, a chavar from a medrash. It's two gemaras. One a gemara in Shabbos, one a gemara in Yoma. Story with the Rabbi Shmuel and story of Elazar. So why doesn't one of the poskim or Rishonim or Achronim say that it's okay? Maybe they didn't think it's yeah. So the Rebbe has two biurim nifloim. One is the Rebbe proves that Rabbi Shmuel lived in the time of Rabbi Shur ben Chananya. And in the time of Yeshua Chananya, there was a time when the Romans said the Yidden could rebuild the base of Mikdash. And then they decided to rescind their permission. So, and the Jews wanted to rebel against the Romans. The Roman were very scared that the Rahman al-Islam is going to be a terrible, disastrous outcome. Some felt it wasn't the right time. Whatever, it wasn't the right time. Just like originally, by the Churban, some felt it wasn't the right time to rebel against the Romans and didn't listen to Chazal. So Chazal asked Rabbi Shua Chananya to try to machased. So he called everyone, he got up on the stage, and he said a beautiful mashal, a story with a lion, they got a bone stuck in his throat, and so whoever's going to take out the bone, he'll give him an unbelievable gift. There came a stork with the long thing, he took out the bone, where's my gift? He said, your gift. Go tell everyone you were in my mouth and I didn't bite you up. So that's your gift. So, and because of Shem Chananya already said a story, it was Moshe Chazalev. Also, people connected to the Moshe. He didn't say the Romans are such nice people. Oh, we love the Romans. They rule. Oy, oy, oy.
They go to the oil.
Ah,
They go to the oil.
how is it?
They go to the oil.
Who, the Romans?
Yeah.
Exactly. and they ride the icing Kvittel, but oil, yeah.
Brock went to the road yesterday.
What a difference. So he said with unbelievable wisdom that the Olam understood that Chazal are not on the side of the Romans. It's dangerous and it's not the right time, and they were makabel. It ever proves that he lived in the time of Bishop Hanan. He says maybe that story happened then. So because there was permission to build a Beis Hamikdash, so it's a mistaber that person now has a thief to write down. But Mishmana Churban, when there's no even Sal Kedaitach that the Beis Hamikdash is going to be built, so there's no point of writing down because that Bisman HaChurban, there's no such thing. The Eibush said you only have a key to bring a Korban Chatas when there's a Beis Hamikdash or there's a Salkadaitach that we're middle of building. Men are working. That's one biur. The other biur, but I don't know if that biur will go Rebbe Lezer. There's a biur nifla from Masichem Vov Tishri Tov Shem Aleph. The time is not here for now. Vov Tishri today. That's I'm mentioning already. So maybe next week when we talk about it, we already started talking. They never said there were big tzaddikim that by them they felt such a like throughout the generations there were unbelievable tzaddikim that felt like Mehedi Yibona Beis Hamikdash. It wasn't by them a shaila. What's going to be? Whatever Mashiach will come.
Destroyed. Some tzaddikim, the best.
They never told them the story. It's Mendel had a docker. They never mentioned the Yechila Paris that had a big thing that he wanted to go to Yerushalayim. And I mentioned here many, many times. I heard from Arav Karlat from the Bronx, that told him that the Chofetz Chaim sent him a telegram trying to convince him to go to the Turkish embassy. That convince Chofetz Chaim was thinking he's coming to Yerushalayim, make a so those such tzaddikim, they mamish. So for them, in your mind, mamish b'chol yom sheyavis, it's a real thing. So for you, but those are chodim yuchodim. So for those people, the cause was so alive, so they were mechuyev to write it down, or at least there was a mitzvah to write it down. But for the rest of us, it's not shayef. Okay, time's up. Be'ez Hashem will continue. Be'ez Hashem, tomorrow we'll learn the Shulchan Aruch, the Alter Shulchan Aruch, some tough Reshut Beis, and maybe tough Reshut Ches. Next week, Be'ez Hashem will learn the Gemara coming out. Tough Reish Lamed Tes. Next week, we have a Tuesday night. Yeah, sure. Whatever the Elam thinks. Tuesday night is the night before the Sukkot.
Right.
I don't know. No?
So maybe
we'll do it in the
very busy time.
very busy time. So maybe we'll do it. Let's see.
But Sunday we'll think about Sukkot.
Yeah. Sunday is reserved for learning Seichas.
Marazov.
Yeah.
Rabbi Marazov.
Yeah.
This doesn't stem so well with the Rebbe saying, Mashiach is here.
I hear. You're saying that Rebbe wanted, the Rebbe wanted every one of us to be Dagas to be Shmona Veleza. How can you demand such a thing? It's not fair. Vamed Vorim Amurim. And look, if the Rebbe expected it from Mashma, we know that we could do it. L'chaim, Shumi, great question. Okay. Shukran for joining us. A great night.
Amen.